few words of welcoming address. I will do that in English because our work will be all developed for us in this foreign and international language of communication that will allow all of us, people coming from the different universities and countries, to share and communicate about this so interesting subject that Leonard Cohen has invited us for this next debate. So, as the director of the Center of Religious History Studies at this university, I wanted briefly to welcome all of you, particularly those who came from far away, and thanks already for your generosity in participating in this workshop. My second word is to situate a bit this initiative in the context of our work here. As you know, we are a small center dedicated to what we call in the French tradition religious history. Already the Anglo-Saxon traditions nowadays use this definition. That means to work and study the society from the point of view of religious articulation, religious dimension, or religious phenomena, whatever religion means in different historical and sociological contexts. And our center in these last years has hosted some postdoctoral projects like the one that Leonard Cohen is developing for a few years here with the support of the Portuguese FCT, the National Foundation for Research. I want to thank him for his commitment and persistence in proposing and carrying out the preparation of this international workshop, and to thank also the Portuguese colleagues that are here, who since the beginning collaborated with him in developing the program, doing the contacts, and are also here today with us. Namely Pedro Lage Correia, Miguel Lourenço, José António Rocha, and also António Campos Gouveia that will join us only tomorrow. My third word would be to recall the objectives and the perspectives of this workshop that better than me and with all propriety will be done after by Leonard Cohen, but from my point of view are very clearly expressed in this presentation that was written to present the initiative. It is said here that this workshop deals with the religious literature and those experience difficulties, suffering and persecution in various parts of the world. I think this is a very interesting point of view, because when we, and this is the main objective of this workshop, it was the point of departure was to study martyrdom and in Jesuit tradition. It is done very often with linked with apologetical history, apologetical perspective. And here I think in this title, Narratives of Suffering, Persecution and Disappointment in the early modern period, it is tried to put in question this perspective and to try to understand these narratives of martyrdom behind this traditional apologetical perspective. I think this can be very interesting, not only for those who study the history of Christianity, but in nowadays that could be also very interesting to analyze and go further in reflections about our present world, with this topic of martyrdom is so present in different cultural and historical contexts. But we have a history, and of course we could try to make a phenomenology of this topic. We know that in the Jewish Christian tradition, the term is very linked to this idea of witness testimony, linked to the idea of a judicial process. In the earlier Christian times, this topic was very connected, very linked to the theme of persecutions, and was put out as a main and a very important way of stressing the persistence of a conviction, and at the same time a very strong way of identifying the one, this object of martyrdom, with Christ himself. This is known. This is known in the history. This is known, and this conducted also in the history and linked to militarisms and so on, to the problem of who recognized what is or is not martyrdom, especially to distinguish this phenomenon from the voluntaristic position, let's say, and especially not confuse it with a suicide act or perspective of guilt. So here the martyrdom can be studied in this particular period, the early modern period, but from different approaches, from different cultural contexts, where this experience of suffering, persecution, is also linked to the perspective of disappointment. And I would myself say also, and hope, because without this tension of what we are hoping and what we achieve or not, cannot be understood this perspective of disappointment, this idea of disappointment, I would say. With all its complexity, and myself, I'm not studying this period, I study contemporary world, I would like to bring here and to recall here one of the major books of contemporary literature that put on this experience that we are going to study, those who are studying Japan. That is, there's that magnificent book of Suzaku called The Silence, that everyone, I think, know, that recall for all of us who are in a different world what could have been the tensions and the difficulties in cultural and religious, in self-experience terms of those who were confronted with choices of continue witnessing or choosing another path, another way, and not accepting this perspective of marketers. So by this book, that when I read it, it was for me very, 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 very marked one, a very important one, and it's why I'm recalling here this book today. I think we are put in the center of many of the tensions that martyrdom in terms of human experience and religious experience can bring to our human consciousness. And it is thanks, it is and grateful for this open approach that I finish again to thank all of you and to wish you a good stay and particularly a good work. In the end, and during these days, perhaps, we could try to address still a challenge, the challenge of public aid, all these contributions. Because if the work that will be done here confirm the expectations that the program raised, I think we will have together good contributions to rethink this theme. And I say to Leonard and to all of you that we are a center interested and committed in carrying out and finding ways to afterward publish the contributions and the works that we are going to do together during this time. Thanks very much. Good work for all of us.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your words, Pablo. And thank you for all of you for being here. I am very glad that we can manage this workshop, and I really hope that it will be a nice, fruitful experience, and that will not be reminded of the history as part of the martyrdom of the 21st century. I mean, I hope that we will enjoy here and not just suffering. Just a little bit. I just want to say a few words as an introduction to the topic we were dealing with, and actually this is the basic idea that I thought about it in order to take care of this workshop. Modern Western Christianity was forged in a crucible of conflicting convictions and dramatic deaths. In the 16th and 17th centuries, thousands of men and women of the different Christian persuasions and also non-Christian were executed for refusing to renounce their faith. Thousands of persons gathered to witness public spectacles of burning, beheading, throwing, or hanging and quartering. Sympathizers of these victims published pamphlets, wrote poetries and letters, sang songs, commissioned paintings, printed missives, and completed narratives of the martyrs' words and deeds. Some news of this phenomenon came from places such as Japan, India, Ethiopia, Western Africa, and so on. These were the new martyrs, and their story was spread throughout different places of the world. Compilation of the story of these new martyrs started to be published during the second half of the 16th and 17th centuries. As Brad Gregory showed, Anabaptist, Catholic, and Protestant histories of martyrs were translated into different languages and traveled around the world, becoming an important source of information about historical events, but also serving as an inspiration for the development of religious piety and emotions. These stories were undoubtedly on the basis of the development of the Catholic and Protestant religiosity of the 17th century and even later. Many missionaries were driven by their great expectations of watching the Church triumph on a global scale. As it is well known, in a lot of cases they did not succeed, and their faith quests became stories of new martyrdom. Moreover, at a certain point, the missionaries were truly disappointed because of the difficult journeys, hard work, and innumerable tribulations, with no positive results. Many of them were exposed to several kinds of torments and suffering, pain and exile. The failure was not an easy thing to accept. The original project of expanding the faith turned into something completely different from what they originally expected. How did the missionaries explain this to themselves? How did they explain it to others, to their superiors, or to their readers? Who was the ultimate responsible of such colossal failure? What was the meaning of the failure of this project for the reformulation of the faith? There was a particular way of elaborating such narratives of the defeated. In which way dramatization, art, performance, and ritual were used in order to reshape and restructure these stories and the emotions they provoked. On the main axis of this workshop is the motive of suffering. John Bowker remarked that there are few better ways of understanding the religions of the world than by studying what response they make to the common experience of suffering. Still, there is always a permanent tension between our suffering and the suffering of the others. In many contexts, meaning of suffering was interpreted as it is interpreted today in relation to the identity of the victims and the identity of the perpetrators. According to this, the Church was allowed to punish in order to protect the realm of God. And here I am quoting quoting from the 16th century. Since true Christian faith is indeed like a mother who protects peace, obedience, unity, discipline, charity, and all the good things of the civil as well as the spiritual order, the untrue and anti-Christian faith, on the contrary, is the root from which spring division, disorder, rebellion, insolence, and all kinds of excesses. If it is right that the civil authority punish those that counterfeit money, how can one suffer those that counterfeit the word of God? Whoever insults and violates authority is guilty of less majesty and must be punished in leven, in body and life. End of quotation. So it was something different when it was about the suffering of the other person that was ready to pay the price in the name of the true faith. What was the relation between suffering and the right faith? In which cases did the civil power have the right to punish and perpetrate suffering on others? Who was a real martyr, as Paulo Fontes explained? And who was tempted by the devil to die for an undeserved reason? A martyr, the Greek word, is somebody who suffers persecution and or death for advocating, renouncing, refusing to renounce, and or refusing to advocate a belief or cause of either a religious or secular nature. Most martyrs were considered holy or are respected by their followers and become a symbol of exceptional leadership and heroism. So, who deserved the title of martyr in the early modern period, and under which circumstances was the title conferred? The topics that converge in this workshop are then suffering and disappointment, but also the narratives that these emotions deserve in the early modern period. Researchers in religion, arts, literature, and history can contribute from this interdisciplinary perspective to clarify the place and meaning of such narratives from their different frameworks and in particular contexts. All the information about men and women exposing themselves to risk and dangers, to suffering and loss of life, circulated around different places of the earth in order to forge an expanded consciousness of martyrdom and suffering. For that reason, it is in our main interest to deal in the present workshop with different ways of expression of these feelings, as well as its transmission towards the written narrative, the painting, the theater, the ritual, and the diffusion of letters and missives. So I want to thank all participants coming from places such as Poland, Israel, Latvia, Germany, Mexico, Italy, and Australia, as well as all the Portuguese participants. Thank you all for attending this workshop, and I hope that the next 2 days will be fruitful and of great interest to all. Finally, I want to thank the team of the Centro de Estudios de Historia Religiosa for its good disposition, the hard work, and for the realization of this workshop. I personally want to thank again to Dr. Paulo Fontes and to José Antonio Rocha, to Isabel Costa, and to all the team for their help and painstaking work, and they made that this project would have been able to be ahead. So thank you very much again.